held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131. It's actually October 26th. Hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth, an act relative to the protection of the wetlands, as most recently amended. Notice of the time and place of this hearing was published in the Fairhaven Neighborhood News on October 20 of 2022. It's also posted in the town clerk's office. Persons wishing to be heard will be called in the following order, and I'm sure you've all noticed this is being broadcast and/or recorded for future broadcast. Okay, so the first order of business, minutes for approval from the September 28 meeting. And we've all had a chance to see those. If someone would like to make a motion to approve those as presented, I'll accept that.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That's unanimous, thank you. Meeting mail, Agent Hannon.
We have a little bit of meeting mail.
Okay.
I have a letter that came October 24th from Conoco, engineers and scientists. And the subject is Conoco's involvement with Acushnet's 2016 MS4 permit compliance. Dear Mr. Hannon, it recently came to our attention that during its September 28, 22 public hearing, the Conservation Commission had some discussions regarding the town's compliance with the EPA's 2016 Small Municipal Separate Stormwater Sewer System MS4 permit. As you are aware, slightly more than 1 year ago, Conoco was brought on board by the town to both review the town's past compliance with the permit and assist with achieving full compliance as soon as possible. Conoco has been assisting 5 other Massachusetts communities with similar services since the permit initially became effective, and we have been working strictly with the town's best interests in mind, and within its limited budget by applying our experience to similarly assist the town of Acushnet. Since our involvement with the town's compliance with the 2016 MS4 permit, we have identified a number of compliance issues and have made those issues known to the town. These issues have included non-compliance with many of the good housekeeping requirements of the permit, basically stormwater pollution prevention plans for some town departments that have parking lots and other things attached to their departments, as well as operation and maintenance plans and procedures for municipal activities. And then compliance with many components of the illicit discharge detection and elimination, IDDE, portion of the permit, and compliance with the stormwater management in new development, redevelopment section of the permit, including the development of a report that assesses existing local regulations to determine the feasibility of including green practices into projects, because currently our regulation and bylaw doesn't give any credit for green initiatives. In addition to the above, the specifically relevant to the September 28th hearing is the state of the town's current stormwater bylaw, and regulations. The current bylaw and regulations are missing language to address many requirements that are detailed in the 2016 permit, including requirements to address illicit connections and discharges. So that's one of the things we're missing. Provisions to adequately address low-impact development and site planning, and specific guidance for the design of stormwater management systems at new development and redevelopment sites. That'd be those small construction permits we talked about for decks or porches or garages, so people didn't have to go through the whole stormwater process. Conoco initially attempted to revise the current bylaw and regulations to include all the requirements of the 2016 permit, but found that the modifications resulted in a major rewrite of both documents. Therefore, as has been done in many Massachusetts municipalities, Conoco developed a new stormwater bylaw and regulations for Acushnet using templates that have been recommended by EPA and DEP. So that's the rewrite that I gave you folks a couple of meetings ago, or maybe a meeting ago. It had been given to the town administrator. By using these templates, the town will be assured that both regulatory agencies will be satisfied with the documents, and that the documents properly reference each other. There's a lot of references between the bylaw and the document and the regulation, section 1-5-4, and those things have to mesh between the two documents. During the September 28th hearing, it was apparent that the commission would prefer to revise the existing bylaw and regulations rather than use the EPA and DEP recommended templates as Conoco has suggested. And that comes to Commissioner Redenza's desire to write our own bylaw. That's where he gets that. After reviewing the recording of the September 28th hearing, Conoco is concerned with the past, current, and potential future state of the town's compliance with the 2016 MS4 permit. We are also concerned with the unfounded and incorrect insinuations that were expressed by some of the commission members. Because of the above, we will be stopping work related to the 2016 MS4 permit for the town of Acushnet and will no longer be providing our services to the current commission. And that's their feeling on that. So, they're out. And that's my mail.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, the other meeting mail I'll bring up when we get to that item.
From Luke Legier?
No,
Okay.
from Alan Haru regarding
Yep.
Morton Lane.
Okay.
I could actually mention that too.
I printed out the Luke Legier stuff, but you can, it's your,
Yeah,
yep.
so following up on a letter, Luke Legier, who's the legal representative for PJ Keating regarding their stormwater
Can you pass that?
soil removal permit application, which is the letter they had sent to us in July. They said they were on target for something coming to us by September.
That's the letter.
And I asked for an update on that because we were in October and we hadn't heard anything. So it took him a few days to respond.
So what I gave the commissioners the letter that Attorney Legier sent to the soil board,
Right.
asking for clarification and information and ability to apply for the permit. When I got that letter, I called town council and said, I'm concerned that the soil board's not responding to the letter from Conoco. Conservation Commission's gonna miss the date on the requirement to move the silt piles.
Mhm.
And I also felt that if the soil board didn't respond in a timely manner, that Keating will come back. We have a court hearing November 1st and tell the judge that the town refuses to communicate with them, and that's why they can't get this done. So I called Jeff Blake and said, I'm really concerned about this, and he said, look, the soil board really needs to have a meeting. They need to have a public meeting, and they need to have Keating come in and explain this to them. And they just haven't done that.
Right.
And that's putting us in a bad position
Yeah,
as a commission.
because it means the
Yes.
soil's not going to get removed. So,
Correct.
yeah, so when Mr. Legier responded, he had said two letters had been sent to the soil board, there hadn't been a response, so they said they don't know how to proceed, because they have some questions they need answered by the soil board. So, hopefully the soil board will have that meeting soon, and they can get on with their application, and we can get on with getting that dirt removed from PJ Keating from being too close to the wetland line. 'Cause that's our worry there. I mean, they have 3 years to do it, but 1 year is just about gone. And it also requires.
But there's other impacts happening because of that staying there.
Right,
Yes.
yeah,
Selectman Hinckley's here tonight.
yeah.
Maybe he could tell us what's going on with the soil board.
Do you wanna?
A little informal, I would address that if I knew how to talk. Bob Hinckley, 6 Brookside Drive. Town council was advised to ask Keating to come in and speak with us. We haven't received correspondence. That's all I'm gonna say about it, because we were told that town council should be handling this in between because of litigation, and that's as far as it went. Also, there was a little miscommunication. I was listed as chairperson of the soil board. I
Yeah.
am not chairperson of the soil board. That is being rectified,
Okay.
so I can't speak for the soil board as I am only one member of the soil board. Soon as we get an answer between the councils, Mr. Leger and our town council, we'll have a better answer for you. This is not just because of the soil board issue. There's been communication back and forth. People aren't answering. There's a lot of emails going back and forth. And when you get multiple lawyers involved, sometimes it takes a little longer. I've been asking for it because I think, I agree with you, there needs to be a soil board meeting. We're basically waiting for a consensus from Keating and from town council when the best date is and the best format for it. And as soon as that happens, I'll be sitting right over there.
Right, so you are expecting a meeting
Correct.
sooner than later?
Correct.
So Keating's questions can be
100%.
answered? Okay.
Yep,
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
The bylaw does say that it needs to be a public
correct.
meeting.
Yeah.
If
The only time we won't have a public meeting is if there's an executive session because we're discussing litigation. If
Yeah.
that has anything to do with the soil board, anything, the permit, it will be public and everybody's more than welcome to show up.
We have found that Keating prefers private meetings so the public can
Correct.
hear what's discussed.
Correct.
And it was purposely put in the rewrite of the soil bylaw.
Yep.
That they had to be public meetings, so A, the public won't be saying that we're all being paid off.
Yes.
Because that's a very common chant.
Yeah, I've been accused of that.
Yep, everybody is, and I keep reminding everybody that this is 2022, nobody's getting paid off.
Yep.
Whatever happened, happened at town meeting.
Yep.
And, but it really would be as simple as posting a soil board meeting and saying, come on in, Keith.
Correct.
Call their bluff.
And we've reached out, and like I said, it's all done through town council.
They are the masters of delay.
Yep.
Mr. Hinckley, thank you.
Thank you.
So, next we have appointments here. Noah Dion, Eagle Scout Project Pollinated Garden. I don't know if anybody's here to speak on that. I know he may still be putting together his plan, and we certainly look forward to hearing that because we have a pollinated garden that would certainly benefit from some care and some weeding and some scouts who want to make that part of town look nice and bright and colorful and, you know, bring in some more bees too. So old business discussion on stormwater MS4 engineering services. This goes back, I think this follows up with the letter you just read from Conoco. I know we were going to consider some other companies to review, not only, well, MS4.
No, this
but
is the MS4 compliance, so
Okay.
what the commission will have to do as the stormwater authority is develop a request for qualifications, request for proposals, something along that line. And either put it in the MMA online consulting stuff. We could post it at MAC under engineering opportunities. Or you could, run an ad in the newspaper. I would recommend MMA and MAC.
Okay. You mean Maritime Academy?
No, Mass Municipal Association.
Because I know Bernadette, they were.
Yeah, no, they
Yeah.
have a request for proposal section in there other than just employment opportunities.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments on this?
No.
Next step, okay.
Sooner the better.
Yep. Next is to continue a public hearing, NOI Frank P. Joseph Jr. As I noted at the bottom of it, that says this hearing will be continued till the next scheduled meeting for more information regarding the septic system design. That's
Motion
the-
to continue?
The septic system design has still not been submitted to
Yeah.
the Board of Health or been approved.
Right. Okay, so we have a motion to continue from Ryan, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's for more information.
Yes. Okay. On to new business, I need a motion to open a public hearing for Weldon Lane Historic Trail.
So
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, as a public hearing, Weldon Lane Historic Trail. Public hearing will be held to determine the rights of public access and use of the Weldon Lane Historic Trail. Mr. Hannon, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I've got some, so I spoke with Eversource's community relations, they have a community relations person that goes around and puts some ointment on the burn when things get flamed up. So he contacted their environmental department, who I had actually met with a year ago out there when this project was starting. And their feeling in a recent email from the environmental department was that they have a right of way, they have an easement, they have whatever they need, and they can do whatever they need. And that's typical of Eversource to take that kind of a position in the beginning. So I spoke to them yesterday morning, reminded them that there's a buffer zone attached to the Weldon Historic Trail, and their easement doesn't override the Wetlands Protection Act. There's a lot of objection from the residents to having motorized vehicles and construction equipment using the trail. When I met with them a year ago, there was a discussion that, and this is a, what happened right now is a feasibility study to check soil conditions to see if it would support heavier stanchions and a second power line to run through from city to town, so that if one line goes down, the next line kicks on and everybody has power. It's called a reliability project. And it turns out that what they were doing was one boring and one soil test in our jurisdiction, and they're done. That project is over. And after they put together all of their feasibility information, they will come back before the commission for a notice of intent, if it's feasible, for this reliability project, probably in the next year. So there's no big emergency here, anymore, but it does give the town time to sort out what their right-of-way is, what the historical commission's jurisdiction is over it. The historical commission chairwoman is here tonight.
Mhm.
Yep. They did vote on October 19th to restrict motorized vehicles from traveling down Weldon Lane Historic Path. So that's been a vote of the historical, I'll pass that along, historical commission.
Could you say that again, please, Pat?
It's coming right your way.
Where does it start?
It starts at the end of the road.
Where the signs are?
Yep,
Okay.
where the kind of gravel dirt
Yeah.
road starts down to the back or path. And I will tell you that a year ago, when I met with Eversource out there, they do have a need to cut down trees and move some of the stone wall and do those things, because it's a 100,000-pound machine that's coming in. It's a soil neck machine. It'll drill a 10-foot circumference hole to China. So it's a big machine. So my experience with another reliability project was that Eversource has what we call mitigation money. So I asked the chairwoman of the historical commission if maybe they could consider, and maybe the commission would consider, and maybe the residents would consider, letting Eversource use the trail for their access for the reliability project, but provide mitigation funds to leave Weldon Trail in a better condition than they found it. There are some drainage issues out there. There is some scouring when it rains, because everything comes right down Weldon Lane and dumps down there. Maybe could put a few benches down along the trail or something, but if they could leave it better than they found it, it's a plus for the town. And
That's if they're gonna do it, though.
that's if they're going to do it, and we won't know that for some time.
So I'll ask two questions. One of them based on a little sleuthing Ryan did. So it looks like this Weldon Lane property is owned by a park commission, not Conservation Commission property. So I'm curious as to, and I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but I'm wondering how a historic commission vote on park commission property would apply.
Maybe, just as this commission acquired the Stormwater Authority, maybe the Park Commission, maybe there's a vote somewhere giving them the jurisdiction over the trail. Those are all things that will need to be researched. And it's worth dragging town council into it. They're on a retainer, it won't cost the town any extra money. And we have time to figure it out.
Okay.
Because he sent me copies of their right-of-way, but when you look at the recorded document, it says proposed. Everything says proposed, nothing stamped as final. I think there's a lot of unknowns in the whole bowl of soup.
curious if there's anybody here that's done any homework on this and knows more than I know about it. And Mrs. Texer, I don't know if you wanted to say anything, but if you do, we're gonna need you at the podium, and the ambient mic will pick you up. Or if you wanna rest on your comments from the previous meeting, that's okay too.
I should have brought my file with me, but I didn't bring it. Actually, what we're aware of is I do have a file on Weldon Lane. I've done a lot of research on it. And basically, it is an historic trail that goes back to when Irwin Marks was still living. And my information goes back past 2000. Okay, so it is an historic trail all the way down. They do have an easement which shows on the map. So I'm not sure if the Park Commission has anything to do with it down there or not. I know the neighbors have been very upset because of the noise factor of the equipment. So that's the reason that the commission voted, was just to keep the noise factor down by not allowing the motorized vehicles.
So maybe we could have Joanne contact the park department and see what records they have.
See if they had records.
Yeah.
That was on Mac GIS, and you click on the property, you just said park department,
Yeah.
and then all the other properties say conservation, so.
That's unusual. And the sign at the top of the road, the wooden sign on the
Right.
south side lists
Yeah.
Conservation Commission
And historical.
and Historic Commission.
Right, and that sign, the original sign was made by Irwin Marks, and I believe Ralph Macumber made that original sign. Mr. Tomkowitz that used to live right on Weldon Lane is the one that rebuilt the sign because it was in very poor condition, and we hung it on that tree where it originally was.
Mhm.
But it was put up by the Historic Commission.
Well, certainly encourage you to do more research. You know, the more information, the better.
Well, I can bring Mr. Hannon some more information that I've got in my file,
Yeah, that'd be great.
okay? I can drop that off to you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
You're
any-
welcome.
any other neighbors, anybody want to ask a question, make a comment, since it's a public hearing and, you know, so, Mrs. Pauling, if you would.
One of the questions we have is,
For the record,
okay,
let us know who you are. We know her for the record, but we should.
I'm Dennis Pimentel, I live on 7 Weldon Lane in
Thank you.
Acushnet. Our biggest concern with Eversource, we don't concern about them going down there, is the idea of making the road bigger and making it easier for all these four-wheelers that are coming up and down our street now. Well, our biggest concern, and my next door neighbor here, is they're coming through at 10, 11 o'clock at night, you know, and it's not just one or two, it's like 4 or 5. And so our concern is if they, Eversource, would put some type of a gate across that road. My concern isn't them going down there and going in and doing what they have to do. My concern is later on, when there's nobody there and all these four-wheelers are coming through.
So that could be part of the mitigation plan by Eversource. But if a gate goes across that road, there needs to be a way for emergency vehicles there'd have to be a Knox box with a key.
Right.
So that if someone goes back there and goes for a walk and has a medical emergency,
Right.
there's access to it.
Correct, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like anything else. I mean, I've gone through a few places where they do have gates like that.
Yeah.
You can walk through, but you
Can't
can't.
make it big enough that you could walk through.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So,
But I think that's our biggest concern right now.
but they are willing to work with the residents and with the town.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
I have one comment on gates. Gates only keep people out that will stay out. The gates will not keep the ATVs out. I've worked with the Department of Conservation for the state, at the State Forest in Freetown for over 40 years, trying to keep people from circumventing the gates. And you can put gates, you can put a boulder next to the new path they open, they'll just go a little further into the land and start another path. gates and blocking means nothing to them.
There is stone walls there, that's the thing. If they put a gate up against the stone walls, then it should, I can't see how they could get
That's
through.
private property.
Property on
And then
both
at that point,
sides.
then you guys.
They'll find another way in, though.
They'll find a
They'll
way
go
in.
in through Keith's, so,
It's,
As long as they don't come out at
Yeah.
12 o'clock at night, full
Right.
popping
For
wheelies,
their
you know?
area.
I hung
just-
down there, I've had
Yeah.
quads go right by me, I know.
They just think they own the place. You know?
it's very hard, it's a very hard problem to stop.
Yeah, we did this before.
Yeah, but, yeah, at least there is a width limit. If a gate goes in, it's hard to go around it, because you, as you say, stone walls,
Yeah.
private property.
Mm.
Then at that point, then you can charge these people with trespassing. Catching them's a different story. Yeah, okay. Anybody else, questions or comments? So, should we leave this with,
Just continue this for more
Can-
information.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, continued. So next, we're on to a certificate of compliance, Lot 1, 302 Perry Hill Road, Mark Francois. File number is SE 001-0567. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken.
So I got a phone call from Mr. Francois that he was selling one of his lots on his subdivision there.
Mhm.
And the buyer was concerned about the order of conditions in place on the lot.
Mhm.
And did the buyer have to get his own order of conditions, or could he buy it subject to those conditions? And I think he can. I think he can buy the lot. The order of conditions goes with the real estate transaction. It's recorded at the registry of deeds at that lot. My question is, I haven't seen the commission do a partial COC in the subdivision. So if the buyer buys it, completes the project in compliance with the order of conditions for that lot, and applies for a COC for that lot, is the commission gonna give him a partial COC?
I mean, I recall us doing that in the past.
Not since I've been
Okay,
an
but we
agent.
have-
I have seen partial COCs in the files.
Yes.
So the buyer just wants the comfort of this, being a public meeting and hearing from the commission that if he invests his money, that he will get a partial COC upon meeting the requirements of that order of conditions.
Why not?
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's how we did Blacksmith.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking of too. Yeah.
Mr. Francois, any questions, comments for us?
No, Pat explained it perfectly. That's
Okay.
basically what I wanted.
Okay.
I think that should answer his question, Mark.
That's it. I appreciate it.
Okay, yep, we certainly don't have to vote on that, we're all in agreement here. Okay, super. All right, next is a discussion agenda. Clerk status as it relates to Wetlands Protection Act and Stormwater Administration.
So, I don't live in town, so I don't know who went to town meeting and didn't go to town meeting. And this is something that's been dragging on in the office, and this is about the vote to give Joanne $75 out of the Wetlands Protection Act fund, having a PAF signed by the town administrator and having it ripped up and thrown away, and it's just been like a dead subject. So, at town meeting, in the CPC article, there were raises in there for town employees. So there was a $12,000 administrative payment in there that was going to be a $12,000 raise for the town planner. And he was going to assume the title of Community Preservation Director or Coordinator or something. It was well disguised, Heidi, I can see that
I
you're,
don't remember.
there was $12,000 in there that was a raise.
I remember the 12,000.
Yeah, we'll run
Yes.
that.
In fact, someone got up at town meeting and questioned, is this a raise?
Just a regular.
Is this a one-time thing? What's going on here? So the town has $12,000 of CPC money to give the planner a raise. But we can't use $75 a week out of over $49,000 in the commission's Wetlands Protection Act fund that's designated for salaries for employees of the Conservation Commission. It does not come out of the taxpayer's pocket. And we just can't seem to get it done. And if you looked at town meeting, there was other money for recruitment. And the recruitment was a $5,000 raise for the assistant town accountant, to recruit him to stay longer and become the town accountant. He does a fantastic job. He deserves the $5,000, but Joanne deserves her $75. She's working her butt off over there. We've taken on this monster of stormwater that is a lot more than 4 hours a day worth of work. And, you know, Conservation had a bigger budget before I came on. The agent made $62,000 a year and worked full-time. I took it on part-time for $30,000. So the town already took $30,000 out of the conservation budget and put it somewhere else. This is just crazy that a lady who's worked for the town for 33 years is being denied a $75 a week raise from the Wetlands Protection Fund. If it's good for everybody, it's good for everybody. It just shouldn't be singled out like this. I'd ask that the commission get aggressive on this. You need to get aggressive. She's not gonna be willing. Do you wanna talk to me about the stormwater stuff? I don't wanna put words in your mouth.
No, I've spoken to Bob about, the workload in there. And I know you guys are in support of it. I appreciate that. It just seems like there's some kind of holdup between what you voted on and what the town administrator or board of selectmen need to sign. And they did sign it. And then.
Nope, the town administrator signed it.
Town administrator signed it.
It doesn't need to be signed by the selectmen.
Right, it's just the town administrator signed
Yes.
it. And then I find out it didn't get processed, so I don't understand how you gentlemen and ladies can vote on it and then it doesn't get processed on that end. So I don't know if Bob, maybe me and you could talk to the town administrator and
I'd like
find
to
out
ask
what
them
the
to come to a meeting.
next
Oh,
option is.
The other thing I can do too is I can print up a slightly different version and have a presentation to go with this WPA's wage, what does the P part stand for?
Wetland
The-
protection.
No,
The personnel,
yeah,
Oh, personnel
action form.
Action
I'm
form,
getting my
yes.
acronyms mixed up.
yeah.
I think I had alphabet soup for dinner. So I can, and that's based on a previous conversation I had with one of our selectmen. So I dropped the ball on that, but I'll pick that back up.
Yeah, I mean, they're disguising raises to people, and, we all work here and the walls have ears.
Yeah.
So everybody knows what's going on. And just so you know, the town planner resigned. He was upset about that dog and pony show, about is this a raise, and the selectmen want to be in charge of whether he gets that money or not. It was promised to him by the town administrator. A week from today is his last day. And if it gets any worse, they should just take the doors off the building so everybody can get out of here quicker. It's getting ridiculous.
Can I chime in on this?
Yeah, I'd like to give our selectmen, I don't know if you want to comment, please do.
Excuse me.
You should be given a chance to respond.
Bob Hinckley, 6 Brookside Drive. Without the full board here, without the town administrator here, without this even being on your agenda, it shouldn't really be spoken about. Number one,
Well, it is.
It is on our agenda.
the accusations aren't on your agenda, and none of the stuff from town meeting was as well. I read the agenda. $12,000 for the planner was never discussed as a raise. We voted on that specifically saying that the select board can use that money and authorize every dollar of that money. Joanne, you never hit my desk. I'm telling you that right now. I was at the meeting when it was talked about. I was sitting in the corner. I actually said that I don't see a problem with that. So that never hit the select board, period, just so you know. As for the $5,000, none of that had anything to do with assistant anything. We are severely under market value for both our town accountant and town treasurer collector. That's a reserve, so when we do try to find a permanent replacement for what we currently have, which is interim in both positions, we have a little bit of a pad to entice somebody to actually show up. So you can call it a well-disguised raise. Saying that without people here to defend themselves, and I can only speak as myself, it's not really appropriate, and I don't appreciate it.
Well, I'll take exception to that, and I'm gonna tell you that it was on the agenda, and I don't need to put down accusations and assumptions. It was what was gonna be discussed was her raise,
Sure.
and that other people got raises when she didn't.
But nobody
And I'm
did.
gonna tell you that her job is severely under market.
Correct?
I sent her a text message last night of a job advertised for her job
Mm-hmm.
in another town for $29 an hour.
And once again,
She's not even
the
close.
select board had no say in that. I just want you to,
I think
I
one of
never
the
saw-
selectmen told this administrator to rip up that PAF.
did you hear that?
Yes.
That, you heard a selectman say that?
I heard a selectman say, "What's that asshole doing in this building?" about me when I dropped off the
But
PAF.
did he say anything? And it wasn't me,
And minutes
obviously.
later,
It
it was
wasn't me,
ripped up.
correct?
Wasn't you?
Correct.
It was Kevin Gaspar.
All right, so what I would suggest is maybe set up a meeting, like you said, invite the town administrator. You know me, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. I talk to anybody that reaches out to me.
Public is the way to do it.
Correct.
Bring it in.
But I need to clarify that none of the raises that you just mentioned were raises. Every single dollar of that is controlled and released by the select board. And, like you said, the $5,000, those in the town meeting were specifically to make it possible where we could reach out to find a full-time treasurer collector, full-time town accountant. We have a consultant and an interim right now. And as you know, they only work a few hours a week. We do have people helping and doing jobs, but that's not what that money was for. Simple as that.
I'm here every day and I'll respectfully disagree.
Thank you, Ms. Hinckley. Okay.
Cheryl Brown, 25 South Main Street. Just my opinion on this, it's nice that you want to get in new people and that you want to try and compete and you want to do all that, but you have to take care of the people that you have here and have been dedicated to the town. They deserve it.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, next item is conservation filing fees.
Yeah.
This can-
It at no time.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Rainy Street, possible wetlands violation excursion onto town-owned open space.
Yep, so I brought this up a few meetings ago, that the neighbors on Rainy Street are complaining about Mr. Fredette's trucking operation over there and all of that. I felt that he was mining on town land.
Mhm.
So I got some complaints about 40 trucks a day going in, so I did go out. And I saw that he was doing some filling, so I called him. He took my call, but as I told you, he just had some surgery and wasn't feeling that good, but he's recovered. And just to set the stage for this, earlier last week, I received a phone call from Fred Borges. He owns a cranberry bog over Lake Street off of the ponds,
Okay.
and his wife Janet. And they wanted to convert their cranberry bog into a blueberry patch and wanted to know, was it jurisdictional and what do we have to do? So Fred told me it was upland, and Janet told me it wasn't. So I called Beals and Thomas,
Mhm.
and I said, I need to know what the deal is on converting a cranberry bog from a bog to blueberries. And in my mind, blueberries are a wetlands species, and what's the...
Mhm.
So they've had a lot of experience with this, and he said that the standing order in the southeast region is that if you want to convert an upland bog, you have to prove that it's an upland bog by doing an ANRAD.
Mhm.
So that was the answer. So I spoke to the Borges and I said, you're gonna have to do an ANRAD. I had to explain what an ANRAD was, and they said, well, we did have an engineer here recently to do a survey, and it should be pretty easy for him, which doesn't cost him much more money. So,
Pat, that means an abbreviated notice
Notice.
of resource area delineation, that's what that abbreviation means.
so you have to delineate any wetlands on your property and put it on a plan. So then I went, we have some new software, courtesy of the town assessor. And it's new aerial photography that's done 2 times a year,
Mm.
not just waiting 1 time a year for the state. And it's only done on days that there's really good visibility. It's low-level flight and very high resolution. It's incredible, the resolution. So I went to to Mr. Fredette's property. And this is his cranberry bog. So he claims to have an agricultural exemption. When I called him about bringing in the fill, he said, I'm exempt, I have an agricultural exemption. I contacted the assessor, he does not. It's never been in chapter 61, he's never had an exemption for agriculture there. But he does have a cranberry bog. So in March of 2021, that's what his cranberry bog looked like. And then in September of 21, that's what his cranberry bog looked like. You can see starting to fill it in.
Right.
Yeah. So then in March of 22, he's filled it in a little bit more. And when you get to September, he's getting out of control. He's filling in the cranberry bog.
Wow.
Where is this, I think?
Rainy Street, Norman Fredette.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's.
No. So,
Oh,
Pass it.
yeah.
so until he provides an ANRAD that this is non-jurisdictional to the commission, I'm gonna issue a cease and desist order on any further filling there.
Yeah.
And I tried to get the TV to work, but the assessor's software that they bought shows the property lines through GIS. Here's the town property, and he's excavated all of this to get water for the cranberry bog.
So it's,
So he's on town property.
okay.
So that will need to be surveyed by Mr. Fredette to prove to the town that it's either his or it's the town's. Now, in talking to Joe Carrier of the Board of Health, years ago, or maybe a few years ago, there was a major survey error on Mr. Fredette's property. A surveyor made a mistake, and it's quite rare, but it was seriously in favor of Mr. Fredette. And he wound up clearing up a whole bunch of his neighbor's land. It's been rectified, it's been resurveyed, but I don't know about, this back piece.
Okay.
But it's not just by a few inches.
No,
This is
I looked it up on GIS, it's like 80 feet.
no,
But that pond's also been there since
since he
the
built it.
90s.
Since he built it.
Yeah, because I looked at GIS and
Yeah.
the base layer said 95 to whatever, and it wasn't there then, so it was, by 2000 it was, so it was obviously somewhere in between there.
Yeah, but it wasn't done by the town.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not the end of the world, but it's the town's property, and if you don't stop it now, it could be an adverse possession situation where he takes control of that land. Or the impacts go further than they are. And this is a big, looks like a big cedar swamp back there. This is a major wetland system back there. So, send him a certified letter, ask him to come in and see the commission at our next meeting, and go from there.
Yeah. We certainly don't want to encourage anybody else to do that on town land either.
See if we can do
No.
a site visit too, if it'll allow us to go down there and check it out.
Yeah, that depends on how he's feeling. And it was good to get that first inquiry about, can I change my cranberry bog, and have that information. So, that's that.
So it's possible, at some meeting in the future, we might see Borges on the agenda too.
You will,
Okay.
yeah, you will. They definitely want to change it to blueberries. They've divided the lot, I think another part of the family got some land. They're withdrawing water from the pond, they're discharging water back to the pond. So they definitely have a hydraulic connection to the pond, so,
Lake Street, that's the Lake Street.
Yeah.
so that makes it
Yeah.
jurisdictional all in that map.
Can't have that. Okay. Guess I should ask anybody here in Rainy Street neighborhood that has any questions about this. Okay. Next, this is picking up on a continued public hearing, amendment to a previously approved stormwater plan, Paul Boucher, Nancy Durfee, 7 Morton Lane. We received a letter yesterday from one of their engineers, Alan Haru, and he's written to request a continuance of the public hearing for an amendment to the order of conditions issued to Paul Boucher and Nancy Durfee on September 28th of 21. Okay, for their property on Morton Lane until we prepare and submit a site plan showing existing topography, including the location of the as-built driveway, culvert and utility poles, and a proposed revised drainage system. Given that the driveway was not built as shown on the roadway improvement plan, revised through September 15 of 21, I'm thinking 22 on that, prepared by Zenith Consulting Engineers LLC, and the utility poles are installed alongside the westerly side of the road, not shown on the plan. We must revise the drainage design for review and comment by the commission, Pat Hannon, and the town drainage consultant. And so October 5, 2022, I received a telephone call from Jamie Bissonette, physical engineer, who explained the history of this project. I will ask him to provide the additional topographic survey of the building envelope and prepare a base topographic plan for my use to prepare the updated site plan. I expect this work to take several months to complete, so we respectfully request that the continued public hearing be scheduled after we submit the plan and you have had time to review it. So, any questions from anybody on this? Otherwise, I'll accept the motion.
I got something. I
Okay.
just want to give you some background on that.
Sure.
So, the Durkees remain reluctant to install their silt fence. They haven't installed the rest of the silt fence on the building envelope. We gave them the relief from putting it around the basin. I've been out there 3 times. I did have a meeting out there last week, Joanne, with Dan Menard. Or the week before.
Yeah.
I had a meeting out there a while ago with Dan Menard from the DPW and the Durkees and their contractor. And the discussion mainly was about the road. And the fact that the telephone poles, the power company put the telephone poles where the 4 bays were supposed to go. And could they move the 4 bays out? That's not a big deal, they can move the 4 bays out as long as they can make the drainage work. As long as the water gets to them, they'll work. No, the foot's not gonna matter. And the discussion was, they were gonna go ahead and do the road, and I said, now, you're gonna install the road in accordance with the plan approved by the Conservation Commission? And they said, yes. And they said, but we don't have to pave it. And I said, I really don't care if you pave it or not, as long as you can get the pre-treatment from the dirt road and it passes the stormwater stuff. We, you know, if you don't wanna pave it, it doesn't need to be, you know, don't do it. And then, Mrs. Durkee showed up at the Conservation Office asking Joanne to take a plan and put it in the file. And I happened to be there, sitting at my desk, and you can't tell I'm there, so I got up and said, we don't need any plans coming over the counter and being put in the file, because copies have been made and there's a lot of plans running around town. And that there was, you know, no discrepancy in the plan. And then Ms. Durfee is back to, she wants to install the road as it was amended by the planning board. That's not what the deal is. The planning board doesn't override the Conservation Commission and the stormwater work. They didn't tell the planning board when they got their approval that it was part of their stormwater system. So they agreed at our last meeting to build the road according to what was approved by the commission, and they're trying to move away from that. I got a call from Dave Pichette, their wetland scientist, who is the conservation agent in Wareham. And I had called him a couple of weeks ago to ask him to meet me there, because we were supposed to meet there and go over where the silt fence was gonna go. And he didn't remember that discussion and said he was on vacation. And yesterday when we spoke, he told me he went there Friday, and I said, I wish you called me, and said, you went there Friday, I wanted to meet you. And he said, well, it was spur of the moment, you know, I didn't call you. And then in the letter that Mr. Haru sent, he says that they've installed the erosion controls around the construction envelope, and they haven't. And he hasn't been to the site, and that's an oversight on his part, or maybe he was told that they were, but he hasn't been there. I don't know what you want to do. They're spending more time trying to be right than just putting in the erosion controls and being done with it. I mean, this is a very minor thing to put in, you know, 100 feet of silt fence and be done. But they just don't seem to want to do it. So I'm going to contact Dave Pichette and ask him for a schedule for the installation of the silt fence.
Okay.
And I told them, I'm dug in on this. I'm not gonna just let them wear me down and say we did it when they didn't do it.
We voted on
We
this
voted.
topic at the last
Yes.
meeting.
Yes,
Voted in.
and I have the piece of paper he gave us at the meeting. I
Mhm.
folded it up and stuck it in my back pocket, and I went to my laundry and found it today. And the last thing it says, all construction work shall be segregated from the down gradient buffer zone and wetlands with properly installed and maintained straw wattles and silt fence until the construction work is complete. And it's just not done.
Okay.
And just so you know, a lot of consultants watched that last meeting. And Jamie Bissonette watched it as well,
Mhm.
and called Alan Haru and said, look, I watched the meeting, you're dead wrong. We designed that project properly. You didn't read the entire bylaw and regulation, and the regulation doesn't allow infiltration of roof drains. Direct infiltration through sand, and that's one of the things that can be changed when you change your bylaw and regulation, but currently, it's not allowed. And that was the reason for that whole big interceptor system for the roof drains. They have very sandy soils there, and the water's just gonna shoot right down. There's no treatment. So they are gonna wind up cutting down a bunch of trees and putting that in, but there's been no mention of that from Mr. Haru, and I was kinda waiting to hear from him, and we finally got an email.
Mhm.
And then on the peer review, Beals and Thomas was concerned that the commission thinks that, they're not doing a good job, that we wanted to have GCG give us a price. So they want our work, they appreciate the work, but they're not willing to give estimates on work that they may not get. You need to pick one peer review contractor and have an agreement with them on what their rates are, because a lot of work goes into just giving the estimate.
Mhm.
They have to review all those plans and figure that out.
So, two things on that. One, I know when we were on site several months ago, Ms. Durfee had some hesitation about Beals and Thomas because
Yep.
of her work as in the planning commission.
In Rochester.
In Rochester.
Yes,
And, so Beals and Thomas does work with that town, so I know she had some
they do work with everything.
hesitation there. But in terms of choosing one firm,
Mhm.
there's gonna be a process in which we get, once, estimates from 2 or 3
Well-
companies and make a decision
So,
based on that.
all right, so
So
first of
that
all,
way we all get to see it once.
it was Merrill Lee that chose Beals and Thomas.
Mm.
It was a coincidence that Andrew Gorman from Beals and Thomas served on the Uxbridge Conservation Commission when I was the chairman.
Mm.
But he's a very, very, very accomplished wetland scientist. We joke with him that he's a tree hugging toad licker.
Mm.
He's very, very, very green, but he realizes as a consultant that you need to walk that line
Mhm.
to make a paycheck. So that's how we got Beals and Thomas. Now, they gave us a schedule, a price rate, all of those things. If you want to have more than one peer review contractor, you'll just need to get an estimate from each person. And you'll have to pick a peer review to send it to. You can't ask them to go through and noodle the whole project and give you an estimate to give you a deep review. If you want to alternate, peer review contractors, if you want to do that, that's up to the commission. But just so you know, GCG, as I told you, I think on the phone, came back after we contacted them and said that they felt that there needed to be a topo for existing conditions,
Mm.
that there's no way you can install a foundation and not disturb the elevations.
Mm.
So, and we sent them Zenith's electronic copies of files of the plans, and they're not calling us back. We've emailed them, we've called them,
Mm.
we've emailed them again. Crickets.
Okay.
So, if you want to have more than one peer review contractor, then you need to put together a request for proposals or rates or something,
Mhm.
and advertise that,
Okay.
and see who pops up. But it wasn't me that picked Beals and Thomas.
Okay. Good to know.
I like the work they do.
Thanks for that, Pat. So, anything else regarding Morton Lane, or if anybody here has any questions, comments about Morton Lane? So, I know we haven't voted to continue yet, but any discussion on this? Okay, so, no, so yes, definitely.
Get a timeline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, Alan Harua said it's gonna take months for, so I don't know if you wanna say, we revisit this in 2 months, 3 months?
All the more reason that their erosion controls need to be installed
Exactly.
tomorrow.
Right.
So what I prefer to do is to send them another certified letter, giving them 14 days to install the erosion controls.
Okay.
After that, we'll turn it over to DEP.
2 days. Okay, so let's do that. We'll do two votes here. First,
Yeah.
motion to continue for 2 months.
So moved.
Okay, do you have a second?
Well,
Well, because no, but I'm just voting on the motion to continue with these plans. I want to do a separate vote regarding
Yeah.
certified letter and,
there's another component to this. So, well, when Dan and I were there for the site visit about the road, Mr. Boucher asked me if he could backfill his foundation because he was getting water in his crawl space. The reason he's doing that is because he didn't hook up to the roof drains. He's got the downspouts right down onto the ground. So we want to go 2 months with all that roof drain water just going down onto the ground. Should there be, I guess it's not avoidable, but 2 months is kind of long to get a topo done of just the area around the house. I mean, that's obviously what was disturbed. They didn't dig up their driveway, they didn't dig up the paper street when you first come in on the right. They haven't dug that up, but that's where there needs to be a silt fence, is across that. And I told Dave Pichette, if they would just get this done, we'd all be done. We wouldn't have to have these meetings and they could be done. This is a very simple thing.
but we're not voting on them. What I'm asking to do for a continuance, so this public hearing, based on the comments from Mr. Haru, that's gonna take several months to get these topographical plans done. So if we continue something and we don't have anything in front of us,
Yeah, but I guess we don't have any choice.
the other, and that's separate from
So you have to have erosion control in
us
place.
enforcing something that we all voted on to be done at, a month ago.
Right. Well, you actually voted a year ago for them to do these things that they didn't do. And then they said they would do it, and we voted on it, and they haven't done it.
Yeah, I mean, we voted in an enforcement order a month ago
Yeah.
to get this done, so. that's separate.
Do you have any problem with me notifying the building department not to issue an occupancy permit until this is straightened out? I don't see how they can get an occupancy permit until we sign off anyways,
Right,
but it has happened. So I would prefer to notify them, but I don't want any blowback from the proponent that I'm being heavy-handed here. But the town needs to have some protections. Because once they move in, they're gonna go even slower.
mhm,
Winter's coming, it's gonna be frozen, they can't do anything, and winter is coming. That could be a problem in building the road up.
let's vote on the continuance first.
Yep.
So, motion, I better start over. Motion to continue the public hearing. We're gonna go a month, 2 months? Somebody can make the motion and pick the time.
Can I recommend a month
Okay.
and ask them for status at that point?
I'll make a motion that we continue this for one additional month. And with the conditions that they actually put their storm water prevention barriers up like they're supposed to.
Okay. So a motion from Everett. We have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? That's unanimous. So then you're gonna follow up with Dave Pichette.
Yeah, and I'm actually gonna call, I'm gonna call John Romanelli and ask him how soon he can get out there and do the topo. So what happened was, Mr. Haru was asked, after all of this, he asked us to stay involved in the project. And to, you know, work on, I imagine, work on this topo and some other stuff, so. Sent an email to Alan Haru and to Jamie Bissonette, asking if Zenith could speed this up. And is it really gonna take 2 months? We'll see what they say.
In the meantime, we voted in for an enforcement order a month ago to get the odor control in. It needs to go in.
Yes.
Yes. Next, Acushnet Company, 115 Manchester Lane, peer review report. Mr. Kelly, Mr. Bill, I remember your last name, Bill. Bill Madden, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hinckley.
Can I maybe save you 5 minutes?
Pardon me?
Can I just maybe save you 5 minutes?
Sure.
For all of that? Yeah, so, in closing out the peer review from Beals and Thomas on this,
Mm-hmm.
it all came down, everything checked out except their concern about the basin being too close to the wetlands. So, I said to Andrew Gorman, you know, there is no place else for the basin to go. This is a company that does, you know, 10-star work. They're very, very careful about their property. What do we do? And he said, well, if GAF on behalf of Acushnet Company wanted to write a letter and tell us that they've done an alternatives analysis and there is no alternative but to have the basin there, then the commission can approve and give them their stormwater permit. And that would be my recommendation. There is no place else to put it. We haven't seen them do a job out there that doesn't look like $1 million. So it's just my recommendation that the commission vote to approve the stormwater permit and we move on.
No,
You
we-
agree that there's no alternative? I mean, you wrote the letter, so.
No, I wrote the letter and I've been working on that site since 1989.
Yep.
So we've been there since pretty much day one when the test facility was put down there. And, you know, I guess, you know, from a Conservation Commission point of view, you know, you did issue an order of conditions for the construction of the project. It did include the drainage basin at that particular location. I think that, you know, there's a little bit of a error on my part. I should have included that in the letter as well, because I don't think there's really an opportunity to change that order at this point in time. But the long and the short of it is, yeah, there's not many places out there where we can dispose of stormwater. That is really the final place, and it is appropriate due to the prior alteration that occurred to the area. We have the proper groundwater separation, and, you know, to clear cut 3 or 4 acres of woodland and to lower the grade 10 feet and relocate underground utilities, you know, as opposed to holding a contractor's feet to the fire to make sure he doesn't have an alteration with it for a project within 5 feet of the wetland. I think we can guarantee that.
And what convinced me was the fact that it's a previously disturbed area anyways. So,
No, you know, just as a side note, you know, I was out there last Thursday. We did a pretty detailed inspection of the maintenance facility. You know, there's a drainage basin that's immediately adjacent to the wetlands there. You know, soils are stabilized, erosion control is still in place. Site is, as you said, it's a 10 for a site. Contractors are good. They did a very, very good job, and, you know, we'll be submitting a certificate of compliance request on that site in relatively short order. So, appreciate your efforts and your time on that one and your recommendation as well. Thank you.
so you guys want to make a motion to approve that?
So what are we approving?
Stormwater plan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm fine with it. Somebody make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the stormwater plan for Acushnet Company on 115 Manchester Lane.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained, it's unanimous. Okay, Madam, Mr. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much.
See you, Kevin.
Okay, Deep Brook Estates, update.
Saga continues.
Yes,
So-
I saw your letter.
Yep, so they hired Zenith, Jamie Bissonette, They, as you know, when Mr. Costello bought the project, he didn't get all of the plans, he didn't get all of the engineering. In fact, that engineer just left. It was GAF that did the job for Costco.
Mhm.
And there's some bad blood there, and GAF's not willing to give them the plans, and not willing to sell them the plans. Go do it again, you know, that's that. So, Doug Pimentel, the planner, was successful in calling Bill and getting him to send him 4 sheets of the plans. But there were 2 sheets missing, and they were the ones that need to be stamped. So there's no stamp for this. So Jamie Bissonette called and said, you know, I have some plans, they're not stamped, and can you call Beals and Thomas and ask if they can approve this if it's not stamped? And I said, you really gonna make me do that? And he said, I promised my client I would ask. And I said, all right, but you and I already know the answer, they need to be stamped. So I made the phone call. They need to be stamped, it can't be done. And Jamie said, well, then that means we need to go back and recreate the wheel. They need to go back and do a topo and do a survey and pre-construction stormwater calculations and post-stormwater calculations and infiltration tests. And you're talking 6 figures. But that's what it's gonna take to do it. So Jamie notified him, and I got an email from Jamie saying his client wants something in writing. I've given him everything I'm gonna give him in writing. He's just looking for another piece of paper to try and, you know, turn this back on the town or whatever. I heard Doug Pimentel actually kind of yelling at someone on the phone the other day, and I opened the door to him and said, was that somebody else? He's like, no, he goes, it was, you know, Deep Brook Estates. He's like, I'm tired of this guy calling and telling me we have plans we don't have. He just doesn't want to give in on the fact that he doesn't have what he needs for plans. So Jamie has the message now. And this is another one. If we don't have something by our next meeting, I'm gonna withdraw the provisional approval for them working out there. There's no erosion controls. I've asked for the erosion control plan, and that's another plan they're missing. And they said, we'll have the erosion control plan for you in a week. It's been 2 weeks. He's only working in the road, he's not working anywhere else, but they need to be installed. He did install the basin down the end. We had some complaints about dirt being tracked and speeding trucks. I went down and made him install the construction entrance. That's been done. But Mr. Costello doesn't have everything that he needs, and we did him a favor, giving him a provisional approval to get started down there. So, and I've got, well, we'll go on to the next one after that. So, I'd like to wait till the next meeting and see what happens.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Comments for that? Okay, Pat, Moniz Estates, update?
They're blowing me off, and I'm shocked. When I went out there, they were all, you know, we'll get our engineer on the phone, we'll take care of it right away. They've got a serious problem that they don't have a NIPD's permit. They're working without a stormwater permit from the federal government. They don't have a stormwater pollution prevention plan. I've asked to have Mr. Moniz come in with his engineer to the office and meet with us and go through the file and find out what they have and don't have, and have them get it. And it's fallen on deaf ears. So I'm going to issue a cease and desist out there.
Okay.
There's nothing else I can do.
Maybe that'll motivate them to come in.
Well, it will. He's building houses and wants to sell them. I mean, he's under construction.
That's true. Next item is stormwater bylaw discussion.
Well, you guys need to decide, do you really want to try and write your own amended bylaw and tie it into a regulation? And make sure that you pick up the IDDE and all those other things, the credits for low impact design, and put together, you really, and I really recommend that we put together the general permit for decks and porches and driveways and things like that, that eliminate all of this peer review stuff, and, you know, maybe it's $150 permit and away you go. It could be done in one meeting. that's what it was intended to be. And EPA anticipated that we would change all of these things between 2007 and now. But, and we're not the only town.
Right.
But the town in 2020 actually took the money out of the stormwater budget away from Merrill Lee and used it for something else, and she couldn't do the work with BBAC for 2020 because she didn't have enough money.
Mhm.
They're not taking it that seriously, being the town administrator and selectman. But when EPA shows up here for a conference, because some of the stuff needed to be done for this year, and like I said, when I went to that, well, I did the online thing for year 5.
Mhm.
It's a complete redo. It's a very heavy lift. So, the bylaw is like number one. It needs to get in.
So, the letter you read earlier, did I hear correctly that what Conoco had given us was something that we can use or vote on?
Yeah, so,
It's taken into account
yeah, so.
EPA,
So-
DEP.
So maybe, and time flies after you're 50, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, we talked about the fact that there was a generic document that came in from Conoco from all these towns. And that it had a whole bunch of things. It had the tree preservation, it had all these things. And I said, I don't live here, you guys need to decide, do you want the tree preservation part of this? Do you want? Now, the solar bylaw that passed, did the solar bylaw pass at town meeting? I've heard 2 stories, that it didn't pass and that it did pass.
Passed.
It passed. Okay, so the solar bylaw has a tree preservation portion, very similar to ours. The only difference to the one in ours is, if you can't find a place to replant the tree in the property or somewhere else in town, you can get a waiver, but in the MS4 one, you have to actually pay money into a tree bank for the town, and the town can use that money to plant trees somewhere else. And that's actually not a bad idea, because the biggest concern in town was the clear cutting and just wholesale chopping down of all of these trees.
Right.
So and these are trees with a 6-inch caliper or bigger, and that's a decent sized tree.
Mhm.
So, I would be in favor of the solar developers paying into a tree bank. These are very rich projects. They're very profitable, very similar to Eversource. There's money, there's mitigation money. So I don't see any residents clear cutting 70 acres of land to, build a swimming pool, or it's gonna be a commercial project that's gonna do that.
Mhm.
So, or you can mirror the one that's on the solar bylaw, and they're both in unison. But I guess it doesn't do any good to have the planning board have one bylaw for solar fields for trees, and the Conservation Commission to have another bylaw for trees, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But the solar bylaw doesn't address those special permits that we're talking about.
The solar bylaw doesn't address.
It doesn't address any of that, and that's important to us.
Oh, no, the solar bylaw only
Yeah,
applies to
right.
solar fields and cutting
Yeah,
trees.
exactly, that's my
Yeah,
point, so I
no,
think,
as far as the residents go, and having to, go through stormwater to build a deck on their house or put an addition on
Right.
their house or whatever, it could be so streamlined that it wouldn't be funny.
right.
Yeah.
But that would be in that template
Yes.
provided by Conoco.
Yes, and all of this stuff is at the planning board's feet. This is not a delay caused by the Conservation Commission. You guys inherited this mess. In fact, they never even issued a stormwater permit. And that's why I asked a few meetings ago if you really wanted to keep it.
So we're in year 5 right now. By the way, that file you sent the other day with the PDF,
Yep.
for some reason, there's a script in that my computer will not open, and I even updated my Adobe Reader.
Oh, I couldn't open it either.
Okay.
Telling me now.
I just did it today, because
Oh, okay. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, my computer was not happy.
I thought it was mine, because it's old, but I couldn't open it either.
So, we need a new stormwater bylaw. We've been given one that could be used.
So I'll send the template out electronically to everybody. I'll make sure it opens before I send it out.
Well, no, but I'm talking about the one you sent recently was the MS4 report, I think.
Yeah.
I believe it
The annual
was.
report.
Yep.
It wouldn't open for you?
No,
Okay.
which is why I didn't send it to anybody else's.
I'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm curious about thoughts from other people here regarding what to do about this stormwater bylaw.
Well, we need a new MS4 contractor, so we'll run that one by him and see what they give us for input.
Okay. One option. So we want to discuss that topic now? Are we going to like create an RFP or an RFQ for stormwater contractor, stormwater reviewer? And then, do you want me to? So, all right. And would you like me to draft that up and try to have that for the next meeting?
Yeah.
So so I can try to find examples of that, and we'll also do that for the calculations review. Yeah. It's an interesting idea, though, of alternating between two,
Yeah,
Beals and Thomas and GCG or
well,
whoever.
and they might turn around faster,
Yeah.
because,
There was another company, it was a coal that was like taking forever.
they were subbing it out to somebody, and that somebody was subbing it out to somebody else. It was taking 6 months,
Yeah.
and it wasn't the kind of review that, we've been getting from B&T.
Mhm.
And I understand from the folks in Fairhaven that GCG makes Beals and Thomas look like Boy Scouts.
Hmm.
And let's face it, Fairhaven was a very rigid, very well-run machine over there.
Well, I'm curious to see how it goes with the new agent, if they even have a new agent.
I don't know how anybody could do the work that Whitney did. No one's gonna match that. So, every document's on their website,
Mm-hmm.
everything. Site visits, pictures, everything's on their website, everything. And that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it's good.
Joanne has time.
Yeah,
Ah.
right?
I'm making a note here.
Are we gonna respond to Luke Legier's letter and maybe tell him that, we've heard that the soil board's gonna have a meeting and
It sounds like lawyers are already talking to each other anyway.
that's not what town council tells me. I specifically called Jeff Blake and he said, I've told them they need to have a meeting,
Mhm.
period.
But is town council talking to PJ Keating and/or
It's a matter of.
McGregor,
yeah.
whoever?
The soil board would post a meeting just like we do,
Mm-hmm.
and PJ Keating would show up.
Right.
You get the notice, you get all of that, you sent a letter. They sent that letter that they're confused about what to do, and the website, the town website says that Joe's the soil board person. But the town website also says that I'm on the Energy Commission, and I just found that out the other day. The town website's just got things on it that is not accurate. But they're a sophisticated company. They know how to do this. This is just a delay. It really is. And if the soil board would post a meeting, that would be the end of that.
Cheryl Bryan, 25 South Main Street. When was the last time that the soil board had a public meeting?
Prior to the election. They haven't had a meeting since Dave DeRoche left.
You guys have one every month, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes
I think it's
twice.
time that they had one. It's like a delay, and it's ridiculous because PJ Keaton's gonna be, going on winter hiatus anyway. But they're playing games and it's not right.
And we just lost another resident.
Hmm?
We just lost another resident that abuts PJ Keating,
Yeah.
65 years old. He's gone. Didn't feel good, stood up, had a heart attack and killed over.
Mm.
So, the saga continues.
Okay, so, wrap this other topic up, so I'll draft up a RFQ/RFP for stormwater reviewers, so we can all take a look at it. And actually, I'll send it to you prior to the next meeting. Not that I want homework, but I'll do it. It's all right.
So let's put Mr. Kelly on our next agenda and ask him to come to the meeting. He owes you that much.
Regarding,
Joanne.
oh, that too?
Yeah.
Okay, so we did switch topics there, okay.
Yeah.
Just making
We didn't
sure.
resolve it, it was going back and forth, so.
Just making sure. Okay, any other updates then, Pat? If you-
That's enough.
I would. So, yeah, next meeting is scheduled for November 9th. Yeah, I think we're at the point we go back to twice a month. I know it's tough, but,
I think it might help a little bit as far as
No, you need to.
fishing through all the film to
So,
write the minutes.
I got a question. Does that solar field that you went to, do they have a stormwater permit?
They were given a building permit before they got one. Another instance where the building department overrides everybody.
Because I think that was before I was on the commission.
Yep, so when I had the meeting with them, and I said to Joanne, we were looking around, I said, I don't think this project has a stormwater permit. So when they came in, I said, do you have a building permit? They're like, yep, we have a building permit, everything's approved. That's an uphill battle at that point.
mhm.
So we can't be the people that have to fight every fight for the town because other boards didn't do their jobs. It's really causing grief.
No, was that filed under a notice of intent or a RDA?
It's an NOI.
That was my other question.
Anybody else with business for the commission?
So next meeting is when?
November 9th.
So it isn't.
Okay. Might make for shorter meetings.
I'll be real tired.
That's true.
Cool. Motion to adjourn?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.